back. Welcome back to Behind the Lens for yet another fun-filled week. And if you thought last week was full of laughter, I think we've got a hot contender this week because I have three very special in-studio guests. My name is Lynn Elias, film critic, creator, and host of Behind the Lens. You can find my reviews and interviews at 150 publications on print and online around the world. But every Monday you can find me right here on Adrenaline Radio, 11 a.m., 2 p.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern, and then we're on iTunes on Tuesday, and video is up on YouTube and other places later in the week. But let me introduce my very special guest today. Some guy named J.T. Alexander, who some people call him J.T. Anderson. And, of course, we do have a bone to pick with a director of an earlier film of J.T.'s last year. Marcus Mazzelli was here and talked about the film. And, Marcus, you're in big trouble because you did not invite J.T.
I'm going to get you, buddy.
Yeah. Then, of course, we have the fabulous Mojean Aria.
Thank you.
Say hello.
Hello.
Hello. And then writer, director, producer, editor.
That's right.
Dustin, or Dylan, as some people call him, Kahia. Welcome, guys.
Thanks for
Thanks
having
for
us.
having us.
This is so much fun. Of course, I hope you didn't get all the laughs out before we went on the air, because that would be really disappointing.
No, that would be
No,
disappointing.
I got more.
Especially JT.
Yeah.
Especially JT. And, of course, we're here to talk about your film, among other things. Your new film, which is called
Call of the Void.
And it is world premiere.
Yep, Newport Beach Film Festival. We're premiering on this Sunday, April 24th at 2:30 in the afternoon. We're almost sold out. We have about, I think, 13 tickets left available, and then we're sold out.
Well, now let me ask you, with Newport, since you have been at Newport before, you've had a film at Newport before. Have you had a film at Newport before?
I did.
Okay. So you've all been. That's right. You had the
Bronx
the
Bowl at
Bronx
Newport
Bowl
last
there.
year.
So now, when Newport sells out, if it's that popular, will they add another screening?
Yep,
Yes.
they will. And they usually do it right when it gets very close to being sold out, practically almost when it is sold out. They open up a second screening. So,
Fingers crossed, that could be any moment.
yes, we're hoping. So,
Maybe by the time we get off the air, everybody listening will make a mad dash.
Yeah, I'm telling you, right now there's only 13 tickets for that Sunday screening. So,
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, do you like that with a film festival where you they only set one screening? I know LA Film Festival used to do two of everything.
Mm-hmm.
They've cut back over the years as well. And I know a lot of people, festival goers, always loved the fact there was an alternate screening, so it would open things up and make it freer. As a filmmaker, do you like the idea of one screening to get the big buzz going? Or would you prefer to have multiple screenings so people can leisurely...
it's interesting. I mean, you bring up a good point. You know, in one sense, yeah, it's limited. It makes people want to run to that screening. You know, in another sense, not everybody can always make that one screening, and so giving people more options, you know, as to when they can go, I think it has its pros and cons. But I mean, if I had to pick between the two, I think I like the idea of having one screening that sells out and then opening another screening.
Mm-hmm. Now, to give all of our listeners and eventually our viewers who will be able to look at these lovely faces to their heart's content. You know, your camera, you've got two of them on you,
Right here.
okay? You got two of them on you, Mojean.
Good. I'm not used to double camera, more into feature films, but I'm gonna make this work.
You should be used to it because Call of the Void. So.
I didn't notice what we shot of that.
Well, that's because of all the negative space that was being used and the lighting, so it was dark.
I just know that we didn't have that many takes, and Dustin's like, just make this one work.
I told him on set, actually, I don't know if you guys remember this, but I remember it was on day 3 when we had to crank out 21 pages in a day, which is crazy because, you know, most independent features would shoot at a fairly fast pace, shoot between the 6 to 7 page range. You know, to shoot 21 pages in a day is insane. And I remember I said to them, I said, hey guys, we're shooting on film, not digital. You don't have as many takes as you want to get the performance right. Every time I yell action, that's precious film rolling in the can, and you have to just bring your A game. And I thought they brought it.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen the film, and it's phenomenal. But I have to say, from an actor's standpoint, when somebody, I mean, that's soap opera speed, 21 pages a day. Do you guys does your heart stop and you go, what?
Mine did. A couple weeks before we were shooting, I said, all right, well, how many days am I going to be on set? How are we going to crank this out? He goes, 1 day. I go, all of this dialogue is 1 day? That's like 21 pages, I think you said, right? And I don't know how we did it, but we did it, and I'm proud of it. It dropped. When I saw that, I was like, oh, my God, oh, my God, oh, my gosh, oh, my God. How was this going to happen? But it worked. And then, this guy being a pleasure to work with really helped out, too. So.
I mean, how'd you feel about working?
Yeah, because Mojean, you're in, I'd say, 85% of the film.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's interesting you say soap opera speed because it's not. I mean, it is. We shot that way, but I had a good pre-production chunk, so, by the time I came on set, like Dustin and I had a clear idea of what we were doing, and I already had the dialogue. There wasn't too many script changes, so even though it was a crazy amount of shooting a day, and I would have preferred to do it another way, but it was also good that we had everything. It kind of forced me to be extra prepared, So.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Do you find that is the key for you, is the preparedness?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, everything comes out of confidence, and, if you have any doubts, you can only work on them and make sure you put enough work into it that your doubts kind of dissipate and, yeah.
Yeah, tell everybody what the film is about, and especially for all the TCM listeners out there, which is a big contingent for us. And the TCM Film Festival is next week, as a matter of fact.
Cool.
So this is perfect to have your film here this week to talk about. Tell everybody what the film is about.
Well, I mean, right off the bat, it's a film noir, black and white, set in 1940s Los Angeles, and we actually shot it in Los Angeles. But
not in the 1940s.
Not in the 1940s. Unfortunately, that was we'd have to build a time machine for that, or called Mr. Doc Brown. But what we the film itself, at its core, very simply put, it's about a man who's lost the love of his life and is hell-bent on regaining that love back. And ultimately, it's up to the viewer to determine whether his desire or his obsession is healthy, unhealthy. Is it something that you would do as an audience member if you were in this person's shoes? So it's kind of, I leave it kind of open to interpretation for the audience.
Well, and with that ambiguity that you create, you also leave it open for us to determine and wonder, is it live, is it Memorex? Is this actually happening? Is he fantasizing this? Because he is talking to a therapist.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and, like you had mentioned before when we were talking earlier, I made the intention to shoot the therapist in pieces, in fractions. So as the story and the narrative unfolds, you're getting bits and pieces of her. You first you get her shoes, her hands, her lips, the back of her head, but you're never getting the full piece of her until the very, very end.
Mm-hmm. So now, when you guys get a script like this, what is your reaction when you see something that is unfolding in this fashion?
Well, my initial instinct when I read the script was, I don't want to give away too much of the movie, but I had a friend in high school who had a terrible breakup, which kind of led him on a psychological destruction. And for me, like, as soon as I read the script, I kind of resonated with the idea of what people are capable of doing to themselves to protect themselves, if that makes any sense. I mean, people, there was a great documentary, I'm sure you saw it, called The Look of Silence. Maybe, Joshua Oppenheimer, The Act of Killing.
It's over here, as a matter of fact, or laying out here. Oh, it's right there. The Look of Silence.
It's beautiful, and when people have done terrible things, they're able to create a world to protect themselves. And I always find that, whether you've been bad to a girl and you've lost the love of your life, or whether you messed up a job, and the illusion that you can create becomes very interesting to me, because we can create our own realities to help comfort ourselves.
No, and that's exactly what you do in this film.
Yeah.
And it really is, it's an outstanding performance as Steve. But then another great performance, and it's a great contrast to see you in this role, JT, after seeing you in the comedy Actor for Hire last year. Described as a John Wayne doppelganger.
I've never done a film like this before, and Dustin and I worked in the past, and he came to me with this opportunity to play this period piece play this cop role, and I was basically drawn to him as a protector and protecting Veronica from this hazard of I don't want to give too much of the film away either, but I never played anything like that before. It was always hardened criminals, and like my film, that 10 Cent Pistol that premiered last year at Newport. It was just a new character for me, and I was attracted to it, and I wanted to do it. I never looked like I did on screen, so I thought that was really cool. All the films I did, I've always had stubble, so it was a new experience for me, and I wanted to play it because I wanted to, do a different range of what I was used to.
Both of you.
With comedy and other stuff.
Both of you totally chameleonic in your look on screen. Totally chameleonic. To the point of, in your case, Mojean, Johnny Depp chameleonic. So, and we all know how deep he goes into his characters. So it's a testament to you, Dustin, in casting these guys. What made you pick them, of all people, that you could have gone with?
Well, I'll tell you this. So,
yeah,
JT
wants to know. Yeah, JT wants to know.
I actually, before we actually even started casting, I knew I wanted JT. I had, sent him the script. I talked about it with him, and, we both felt that Tommy was going to be the best fit for him to kind of explore that role. But I knew I wanted to work with him again from working with him on my first short film, Masterpieces. And in that role, it's funny, he kind of he was like a sort of comedic relief in that film.
He does that so well.
He does. He does it so naturally. And that's why I remember that out of all the actors I worked with on that short film, I felt that JT had the most talent, the most promise. He was the most natural. So and the thing was, it's like, I wish I would have casted him in the lead role of that film instead of who we had cast. So
and let us stress, we are not talking about Call of the Void. No, Mojean, he did not want to recast Mojean with JT. Let's just clarify that.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking. I'm talking about the short film.
Yeah.
Not Call of the Void. I wouldn't cast him,
let's just clarify that.
For the short film actor.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
I hope he's not listening.
I doubt it.
Yeah.
Well,
but
quick, you got your phone over there. IMDb it quickly and see.
But no, I mean, it's because that he just did such a stand-up job, and I felt he was so real in that small little role, and I said, I want to work with this guy again, and I wanted it to be the right role, and I thought this was the right role. Mojean, on the other hand, what's interesting about him is that we casted for 4 weeks in LA, but this guy walks in on day one, second audition, and I remember when he did, his audition, everybody kind of had that lean forward moment where we were pulled into the performance. And after he left the room, we were all just on the same page. We thought this guy was awesome. And even though we continued casting for 4 weeks, it wasn't because we didn't think that he wasn't great. It was that we had just started, and we're like, this is day two, literally the second audition. Let's see. I was like, if this is what's coming in on day one, second audition, what else is out there? But nobody came close. Mojean had set the bar so high in his audition that nobody came close to touching him. And so that's why we ultimately went with him. And I have to say, I was more than satisfied with his performance in Call of the Void. So
I think saying you're more than satisfied is a bit of an understatement.
I agree. I'm trying. I said in another interview that I did with Greer on Greer RC, I said that I personally feel, I don't know if Mojean feels this way. I know he's a tough critic of his own work, as I am of my own. I felt that his performance was Oscar worthy, and that some people might call that an overstatement, but for me personally, that's what I feel about his performance.
Yeah, no, I don't think that's an overstatement. Anybody that sees this film, I don't think that's an overstatement at all. So, you did set the bar high for yourself.
Yeah,
now you have nowhere to go but down now.
We'll see. That's a challenge.
Yeah, I mean, it truly. And as I said to you, to the guys earlier, I mean, You do. You look like Michael Pitt in many respects in this film, with some of the transformation that he does in his roles, because you make great use of your facial expressiveness.
Oh, thank you.
And I think a lot of that is also due in part to your choices in lensing this black and white, minimal lighting, focusing only on certain parts of the body.
Yep.
And certain areas in a room.
Oh, definitely. I mean, it was a choice that I made before production, before cameras rolled. I spent about 3.5 months just designing my shot list. I don't know if you guys ever saw my book on set. I had a binder that was easily 3 inches thick, and it had every layout, every camera placement put there. But then when the reality of shooting 4 days came into play, I had to slash shots, combine shots, and create new shots on the fly. Mm-hmm. And I remember I spent hours before, when they were still building sets, I was just like going through that booklet and seeing what could I do. And then we brought on 2 additional cameras just to get additional coverage. Otherwise, it was not going to be possible to shoot in 4 days, you know?
How many cameras did you end up shooting with?
3.
Okay.
Yeah, so we shot with 3 cameras, and that was just because just the amount of coverage we needed would just not have been possible. It's basic mathematics, and you know, we weren't going to be able to do it. But, you know, because I had one covering the main camera that we had. I mean, that was, you know, the Black Magic, and we focused on that. And that's where, like, when we shot the scene that you talk about with a lot of negative space, we that was, you know, a camera. It was always the A camera, you know. And that's the one I went for always with getting my most important shots.
And I have to say, for all of you filmmakers out there listening, and I know many of you do listen, David Spaltro being one of them. You're working on a new film. I expect to hear from you. You know, when you hear other directors talk about negative space and making use of these things, as Dustin and I were talking about earlier, so many directors forget about that, especially when you want a moody, emotional, ambient piece like a noir film. And kudos to you and your cinematographer, Peter Borash, for the whole visual design with the negative space. You know, as I had said, I mean, this is very Fritz Lang, you know, very Hitchcockian, but there is so much, you know, implemented here from classic noir cinema. And you really do bring it, you know, showcase it in its best light.
Oh, yeah. You know, it's funny. You know, a lot of the choices that I went with the camera choices, a lot of them, people will come to me and say, you know, this reminds me of that, and did you get this from this film, this and that? And I take it as quite a compliment, because a lot of the shots I came up with on my own, just in my own mind. I didn't really reference somebody, at least, you know, consciously. Maybe it was subconscious, but consciously I didn't say, you know, I looked at this film and I want a shot just like that, you know? I kind of just... It's the way my mind works, you know. Camera angles was the one thing from the very beginning of my film career that came natural to me. I never really had to work hard at figuring out the camera. The one thing I had to work hard on was an area that I didn't always feel too comfortable with, which was screenwriting, writing in general, and then also learning to work with actors. And you know, I almost call it an obsession. I'm almost obsessed with learning how to communicate with actors and get the best performance.
So, in other words, you're Steve.
Yeah, exactly.
Obsessed.
He's obsessed.
Yes, I'm obsessed with learning the craft, so that way I want the best for any work that I produce. And you know, I think like Mojean, we both you know, hold a very high standard.
JT doesn't?
No, he does too. But you know,
JT holds a much lower standard, but he's very giving in that way.
You know what it is I've spent a lot more time with Mojean off camera, and I've gotten to know him personally a lot more, and so I know how critical he is of his own work, and I think that's it's a good quality. I have the same quality as well, but it's not. But it also has its downsides too. Sometimes you can't even see if your work has any kind of merit sometimes, and that kind of sucks too, you know.
So in other words, you can't see the forest for the trees.
Yeah, exactly. When it comes to judging your own work,
or the sprockets for the cell.
Yeah, I was like, yeah. For all I know, it's like I'll look at my work and I'm like, man, this sucks. I hate it. It's the worst piece of work I've ever done. You know, and other people will look at it and be like, this is amazing. This is beautiful. Like, yeah. I want to see more. You know, so.
So now, what do you guys? Since he does obsess about working with actors and relating to actors, let me ask each of you, because you've worked with a myriad of directors already, maybe. I'm looking at JT, and it's like, okay, maybe you have. I know one you have, but how is he working with actors? Does he really understand the actor's process of embodying a role and bringing it to life?
Go for it. Take it.
Absolutely. There's certain questions. There's certain questions that I asked him that we ultimately knew both the answers to, but I would want to make sure that he was on the same page to where I thought that it was going. Yeah, I think he understands actors, and I think he's growing, and I think he's learning more, and that's just going to improve. So kudos for you to learning like the actor process and what we think. It's a tricky thing, but this guy pulls it off, and he's pretty epic.
And what do you think, Mojean?
Personally, like, I love being directed, and I love working with different styles of directors. And I'm often asked how I like to be directed, and I don't have an answer for that. I like kind of falling into their work and collaborating. What I love about Dustin is that he's extremely positive. He has a great energy. As you can see right now, he's actually just a good person.
Oh, yeah.
Which is important, because, it's nice when you're working with someone who loves what they do and really cares about them. He invested a lot in this film, which makes me care because he has an emotional investment in the film, not just a money investment or some kind of favor he's doing for some producer or something like that. He really cares, and he's going to pay a price, and therefore makes me feel better about the price I'm going to pay.
Mm-hmm.
And he's honest, which is good. He doesn't lie. He doesn't try to manipulate me. He does come and he's like, Mojean, like, this is the day we have, and like, this is what we, like, he's not like trying to, side me and trick me. And yeah, I appreciate it a lot.
But did the checks clear the bank?
The checks in the bank. I don't know. The checks cleared the bank. Yeah, they did fine. I know my team gave a little bit of a hard time, but I think the check cleared the bank.
I think mine did too. On time.
See, look at that. You're ahead of the game.
Yeah, there we go.
Well done.
You're ahead of the game with that one. So now, where does a story like this come from? And obviously, just in us talking earlier, you do have a great wealth of knowledge into film history, as do you as well, Mojean. You, I'm not too sure about, JT. We're working on that. We're enlightening you.
I got a late start.
Guys, don't bully him, all right?
Lay off!
We're just picking on JT today. He's just getting picked on.
I just think he's adorable.
Thank you, sweetheart.
I think I do. I think he's a sweetheart. I think he's adorable. And I loved him in Actor for Hire. So
I appreciate that.
You were very funny.
Thank you.
Which is why I just appreciate your performance so much more in this film.
The title of that movie sounds like the title of my life.
Mine too, buddy.
But as long as the check clears the bank, that's what matters, guys.
I was a little skeptical in promoting that film because I didn't want to seem like I was desperate. Like, look at me, I need a job. So you know what I'm saying? But
which is what that whole film is.
I know.
Yeah. But so now, where do you get a youngster like you get the impetus to come up with a film rooted in noir, with so many visual touchstones and emotional touchstones to guys like Litvak, like Lang, like Hitch?
Well, okay, I'll talk about like the aesthetic choice and why I decided to go black and white and do a story that's set in the 1940s. Really what it was is I started watching a lot of Hitchcock's films, Orson Welles, Michael Curtis, Frank Capra. I started watching these guys' films, and it kind of made me depressed because I would finish watching these movies, and I'd be like, man, these are so good. They're so good. I said, we're making crap today compared to what they're making back then. And it depressed me in a good way, and it still kind of motivated me. I said, I want to kind of pay homage to these great directors of the golden age of cinema. I mean, what it was is these guys focused on storytelling. That was at the heart of what they did. It wasn't just about what you see today with like the big blockbusters that are so CGI heavy that it looks fake, and it's like it's all about the spectacle now. I'm not saying there's not good films today. There are plenty of great films today, but I feel like they're far and few between. There's not as many as
Yeah.
there was that. And that's what kind of motivated me. I said, I want to do something. I want to remind people of that era. I'm not claiming to be a Hitchcock or Orson Welles. I just wanted to remind people, and I wanted to do it justice. So I wanted everything to be authentic. Everything from the sound to the camera to the acting. I just wanted it to be real. And the story itself kind of just came about. I said, what is something that most people can relate to in life? And what occurred to me was relationships. Everybody has relationships to a degree, whether they be romantic relationships, friendships, business relationships. Everybody has them, and you can even have relationships not with people, attachments, obsessions. And so I wanted to kind of explore what it meant to have these relationships, and when life kind of takes a turn that you don't expect, how do you detach yourself from these things that you've held so closely to you? And I think that's one of the hardest things as a human being, is to, when you have something that you love and care about, and when things don't go your way, that you have to kind of detach yourself. That's the most difficult. It's painful. It's very painful. And I want to explore that human reality. I thought a lot of people would relate to it. So that's kind of how the whole idea came about.
And then your whole visual palette. I mean, that really is absolutely stunning.
Thank
The
you.
visual grammar and the overall visual tonal bandwidth is just beautiful.
Thank you.
How did you and Peter develop and design the look, and particularly the lighting and the extreme close-ups, minimalist that you implement? Because that adds another whole layer to the story.
Sure. Me and Peter, we met, months before filming began, and we went over different ideas on how we wanted to shoot it and how we wanted to light it. We even at one point contemplated going with a 4:3 aspect ratio to really kind of go back to that era. And we toyed around with it, and then we said, you know what? It was really important to me I wanted to play with negative space, and so it was important. So I needed that wider film plane to do that. So that's ultimately the reason why we went that route. But one thing we said is, okay, we got to get this thing to a true black and white. And Peter, he's very talented. I give him a lot of credit. I worked with him on my second short film, Valediction.
Right.
And we met that way, and he's part of the Australian Society of Cinematographers.
Yeah.
And it was basically like, Peter, how are we going to do this? We decided on using a monitor called Small HD, and we pre-color graded a black and white LUT and loaded it on there. So he was looking at a monitor that was showing black and white, and so he was lighting the film as if we were shooting on black and white. And that helped us tremendously, because we were able to see, because I mean, if you think about it, a lot of when films were exclusively shot on film, they didn't have the luxury of looking at a monitor.
Right.
It was really just what the DP saw. And then you'd go and you'd crank out those dailies, and sometimes the director would look at him and say, what the hell did you do? That looks horrible, But, Peter is just, one thing that me and our producer Lamar always agreed on is that he's fantastic when it comes to lighting. The guy knows his lighting. And I would just simply tell him what my vision was, where I wanted the light to come from, what I was trying to go for, how dark I wanted the scene to look. And, he would just bring it to life just based on simple direction. I told him I want this film to have deep, dark shadows. I want to see silhouettes at times. I want to see just high contrast, and I didn't want it to look, too overdone, overblown, so I feel like, for example, like Sin City, I feel like the black and white, I mean, it's very stylistic. I didn't want it to look like a Sin City.
Yeah, I mean, that's so polished, and so every edge is rapier.
Yeah.
But here you have that vintage softness.
Exactly, and that's ultimately what we were going for. So.
I mean, you really do, in some scenes, you have that very soft cheesecloth lighting effect, the Garbo effect.
Yeah.
When they really did put cheesecloth over the lens to get that soft lighting.
Oh, yeah.
And it makes you look so lovely.
Just you.
Just you.
Just you.
Well, because you have a much starker, you're there more in the grayscales. You're really in the grayscale range. That's one of the great things about black and white, where you've got black, white. You can create those sharp edges. But then when you get your levels of gray, that really adds a whole other tonal element to the film and the story as a whole. And that's exactly, what Tommy does. Especially with the gun holster. Very nice.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
You remember that gun holster?
I do. I do. I showed my brother that trailer like 3 times, and he didn't see me. He's like, "Where are you?" I go, "That's me." He's like, "Oh my gosh, you look completely different." I go, "Yeah, that's why I wanted to do the role." But he was shocked. He's like, "Wow, that looks really, really cool." And
Well, I remember before, we were talking about with both of them. I remember JT specifically came to me. He's like, "So how do you want my hair, cut? What kind?" He's like, "I'm getting haircuts, So how should I get it cut?" And I just sent him a couple pictures. I think I sent him one of Cary Grant. I sent him one of George Clooney, and
That's like sending him the same picture.
yeah, it is, right? But I was like, "I want this kind of hair for your character," and he's like, "Do I have any facial hair?" I was like, "No, clean shaven." I was like, because back then,
there's no
clean
facial hair.
shaven. That's the way it was, and that's why when you see the contrast of him with the beard, it says so much about where he's at in life at that particular moment.
And you don't know, is he institutionalized? When you first meet him,
Yeah,
you really don't know. He could be an Olivia de Havilland in a snake pit.
I love that.
Because we don't know. And then the nervous tics that you throw in and the constant movement of the hands and the cigarette,
I have some takes that didn't make it into the film, unfortunately, but he does some great things. It's like you almost wish, like, a lot of the takes, it's a compliment to him, I wish I could use all of his takes. Sure. Because he just does so many different, like, the business he does, and you have to just kind of pick which one do I go with, which is the best one to go. You make it difficult in the cutting room to cut your scenes for that reason.
Oh, and I mean, when you're scribbling on little pieces of paper and like tacking them on, and it's like scribble in the way you're like, and you keep writing, and it's just hilarious.
Yeah. I think I was going through a prop phase then.
It's like, which flavor?
What do I play with?
Acting phases, when I'm like different things
The
motivate
intensity.
me.
Did you know, that he, before production, I remember he was obsessed, with finding the right kind of glasses for his character. And glasses were not written in the script for his character to have. But for some reason, he was obsessed with finding these round spectacles. And he found them. And I remember he wore them, weeks before. And I think he even wore some of the wardrobe, too, before, just getting into character. And he went and attended AA meetings, to just really kind of understand what that life is about. And really understand the character more. So I applaud him for that.
It was interesting.
The glasses were your choice.
Yeah.
Well done.
It was interesting attending AA meetings with that suit and those glasses. I thought I'd get something else out of it, but they were like, no, like, this is AA. Psych ward is that way.
Oh, God. Well, I have to say that the choice of the glasses, very European. Mm-hmm. You can harken back to any film of the era, set in Nazi Germany during the war. And that's what all the Europeans all had, the little round glasses. And you see guys wearing those, and they're generally these short little mousy, nervous, fidgety fuss budgets. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it works so fabulously. Yeah. So that was a very good call on your part.
Well, if you notice too, like, and I've heard this from a lot of people like that worked on the film, is nobody can pinpoint his accent. You can't pick out where he's from. And it's a unique accent. And so I felt like that brought another dimension to the character itself, because people want to know, where's this guy from? I can't figure it out. It's not British. It doesn't sound, like Turkish. You don't know what it is.
Yeah.
I feel like this guy spent a lot of time by himself.
Out of every accent, you come up with Turkish?
I don't know. I mean, because I think he told me he spent some time in Turkey. That's why, right?
My family has like some heritage there,
and that's why I thought of it immediately.
I feel like every time I meet someone, though, they're like, "Have you changed your accent or something?" I feel
like, but it doesn't sound Turkish,
My accent's always changing, I guess.
But see, okay, now that you're hearing what he's saying, and your accent is an added bonus, the glasses were an added bonus. Does he get additional riders on his pay?
Yeah, you're gonna have to talk to the producers on that.
He's bringing he's bringing all these new elements.
Gotta call Lamar on that one.
Yeah. I'll
Make
make the phone call.
Hey, Lamar.
Well, the thing is, if you get a distribution deal out of Newport, now have you had any bites yet? Has anybody
actually,
seen
believe it or not, we had a distributor contact us before, like a couple weeks ago, wanting to possibly, rep the film. But we said this is the first bite we've gotten. We didn't want to just jump on the first train. And so we said, okay, this is our first run. This is our first world premiere. Critics are going to take a look at the film and review the film. I was like, let's hold out. Let's look at our options. And so that's kind of what we did. So, yeah, it's, believe it or not, we have had, a bite from a distributor so far. But we're kind of just, we want to see what the field has in front of us.
I mean, I see this. I mean, this would be a good fit for HBO.
Mm-hmm.
It would. Because A24 gets very eclectic with their films, and I just love their choices. Even a Weinstein.
Yeah.
They did The Artist.
Yeah, I love the Weinsteins. So I love, I mean, they're geniuses when it comes to picking great films. I mean, all the way back to when they had Miramax,
Mm-hmm.
Good Will Hunting is one of my favorite films, I mean, they just know. And I remember reading something one time that said that someone at Miramax had tossed Good Will Hunting in the bin. I don't know who it was, if it was an intern or a reader or development. I don't remember that. But somebody threw it in the bin, and then somebody, I think, fished it out and put it on Harvey Weinstein's desk and said, you have to read this.
Is that right?
And he read it, and then that's
Wow.
how. And, actually, Ben Affleck said that Mel Gibson was actually supposed to direct. They had pitched him to direct Good Will Hunting before Gus. And... but, because it was at the time that Braveheart had just won,
Right.
for Best Picture and Best Director. And
But at that time, I can't see. I don't think the film would have become what it became if it had been in Mel's hands.
I agree.
At that
I
point.
agree. He's a different director. I think in a lot of ways he's a brilliant director. But stylistically, I just don't know. If, I'm not saying he can't pull it off, but I think Gus Van Sant did an amazing job with it. And, they're different directors, two different styles.
Gus did a much better job with that than he did of replicating Psycho.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I agree.
I know. I see you grimacing. Everybody grimaced at that one. Let's duplicate Psycho shot for shot.
Shot for shot, yeah.
But in color. Yeah. No, that was.
I actually met Gus Van Sant one time when I was premiering my second short film at San Diego Film Festival. He was there. They were doing some kind of honorary thing for Good Will Hunting, and actually got to meet him, which was cool.
Oh, he is a lovely man.
Oh, yeah.
I always love interviewing him. He's just
Very calm guy, very laid back.
extremely so.
Yeah.
So now so when he had to change everything on the day of shooting from his beautiful lookbook and shot book, was he calm or was he frazzled and frenetic?
I don't think I was.
I think both. I think he was both. I could see the urgency in him. Like, we got to get this. And him not verbalizing. Are you prepared? But I can see it. That's what he's asking me. I'm like, let's go. Let's do it. I'm ready. We're all ready. But yeah. But as soon as he moved on from shots, it was a lot easier. I think, knowing that him, myself, and Ashley were all prepared to move quickly because I knew he wanted to move quickly.
Oh, yeah.
So,
There's a lot of pressure on me from the producers to make sure that we...
You had 4 whole days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And I think day one was the most stressful because we had company moves. We were shooting on location in LA, and that made it more difficult.
that's right.
When I got to day 2, day 3, day 4, we were on a soundstage where we built the sets. I felt a little bit more calm when I started spending a couple hours just before we even rolled cameras, just mixing things up and seeing how I can use 3 cameras to get what I want. Ultimately, I didn't get everything I wanted, and that just had to do with time. But I think I got, the essence of what I wanted. The important stuff that I wanted, I did get. So everything else was just icing on the cake.
So we're going to take a short break, Brian, and we'll be right back. Behind the Lens is sponsored in part by the Culver City Observer. Located in the heart of Screenland, Culver City Observer is available in print and online at www.culvercityobserver.com. And we are back. Hopefully, I can make it through the next 14 minutes and not die. Mojean, wave at the camera. Yes, let everybody see how wonderful you look.
We're back. We're back.
We're back. They're waving,
Yay.
Yeah, so I have to ask you guys, how closely do you follow the industry as actors, as a director? Do you follow the trends? Do you follow what's happening? one of the big controversies this week that impacts everybody, you guys as performers, you as a director, the whole AMC issue about allowing texting in movies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I heard about that.
That's weird. When I heard that, I was just like, this is absurd. This is ridiculous. I can't read on. When I heard that, I'm like, that's whoever allows this is just, it's not
Wait a
good.
second, that's actually real? They allowed that?
No.
Well,
The president, the CEO of AMC, issued an announcement earlier in the week saying, well, we're going to explore the idea of allowing texting in movies.
The fact
I
that it's
hate
even
that
up for a
idea.
debate is
unbelievable.
that's just
It's
wrong.
insulting.
Yeah, and
Are you kidding?
they tried to then back off and say, well, not in all the theaters we'll designate a theater, we'll designate a time.
No.
But the social media outrage
I would
was,
love if
if
they
it-
did that, actually. I would
Really?
love if I think it would be great if there was a theater. I mean, could you imagine where, like, there's a session and all the people that want to text in the theater have to go to that movie session? I think that would be a great idea because we could just, lock the doors.
well, that's,
But honestly,
I wanted to see where he was going with this.
yeah.
but it's also like, if someone's texting and, I'm often in a movie with someone's, texting and I have to be like, hey,
Yeah.
like, you know what I
I
mean?
get
Like,
irritated. I'll be
The
honest.
light really just,
Go in the
it
session.
bothers you.
Yeah,
That's great. I think that's a great idea.
and it's not,
So you as an actor, you wouldn't care if people were sitting there texting and not watching you on screen.
Of course I would care. Of course I care. That kills my soul. But apart from, I think people text in film. I mean, I see people text in the theater. I mean, it's crazy. I think that it's fine if they have a session for those people that just don't have the discipline to get away from their phones for 2 hours. Do you know what I mean? And text. A lot of people are in the industry as well. Sometimes you go to a screening at like a fancy agency and you see like all the agents there like texting while they're watching a movie.
Well, I'm really going to make your day and tell you how many press go to press screenings where they're supposed to be watching so they can review your film,
Yeah,
and they're sitting there texting.
yeah, it's crazy.
I have threatened to cut the hands off of people. One woman, she actually had a laptop there, and I reached over and I slammed it down in her hand.
Good for you. Well done.
It's true.
Because I just find that, especially when you're supposed to be looking at this. But what's going to happen though, if anybody would allow it, and AMC issued a whole thing, okay, no, we're not going to do it because the CEO of Draft House came out and said, absolutely not. And ArcLight was like, absolutely not. But if you let people into one screen, say you want to go to a movie, the only one you can make is that screening where they're going to have texting.
Oh, I would never go.
yeah.
But that's the only one that you can make it to.
That's just terrible. I mean,
See?
that sucks. But I mean, I don't know. I would like to be able to, if someone's texting in a movie theater, I would like to be like, hey, you're in the wrong movie.
Yeah.
Go to the text.
You just, that's it.
Go to the texting hour show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it's a problem in society in general
It's
that we
just
can't get
it's
away
not
from
good.
our phones. I mean,
It's
come on. I mean, cell phones didn't always exist. People used to actually have dinner with their families and not actually have to be texting or being on checking Instagram or Twitter or whatever. I mean, I feel like it's a problem. It's an addiction. It's almost it's like like doing drugs. You know what I mean? In some cases it can be worse because it's like you're not socializing anymore. And if anything, people are becoming more introverted because it's hard to socialize with a phone. Everybody's in their own little worlds, and a movie is something that's like it's an escape. These filmmakers took time, took months, years putting something together, blood, sweat, and tears. And you're basically it's insulting, when people just sit there and they text during a movie. I hate it.
It's an hour and a half.
If I was
Put
like
the phone
Spielberg
away.
or
Watch the
Cameron,
work. It's an hour and a half.
I would say
Yeah.
I'm not going to put my film in your guys' theater if that's what you guys are going to do. I'd boycott them. And I mean it's
There should be theater police.
yeah.
Well, and technically, you listen to ArcLight and they make the big announcement before screening. Oh, we will be in the theater and we will be watching. And if you have a problem or something,
They're not.
and they're not.
Nowhere near.
They're not. And because there are people that continually want, it's like talking in the movies, but worse.
It is, yeah.
People, like I said, I went to go see my friend in a play 2 days ago, and I was surrounded by 3 people on their phone, and I left it in intermission. In the theater.
During the live performance?
During the live performance. My friend's doing a Tennessee Williams play, and they're like, and then I'll never forget, there was a lady in front of me, she was filming the performance on her phone. And I poke her, I'm like, And she's like, what? I'm like, what am I supposed to start lecturing her in the middle of this performance about her phone? Like, there's nothing I can do, you know?
Like, how can you not get it? You know what
Like,
I mean?
you know what I mean? She's like, what?
And see, and that's the other issue. When you've got a phone out, piracy.
Yeah.
Filming a live
Yeah.
performance. That's
Especially during a play. That's
That's-
uncalled for.
Now, do you guys do theater work as well as
I've done
film
theater.
and TV?
I did theater in high school. I did one play out here a couple years back at the Hollywood Fight Club Theater. But that's basically it for me. I moved because I produce my own films. I raise money and put myself in it if it's right and makes sense. My older brother, we have a production company. That's what we do. So, and theater, there's a lot of time with the rehearsals, and you know, I also work too. So, I just don't have the time right now.
No,
to do
really?
Yeah. It's amazing.
I know.
So I just unfortunately I would love to do another play. I just don't have the time right now.
Mm-hmm.
You know. But
And what about for you, Mojean? Do you do theater?
I'm a huge lover of theater. I mean, I read plays constantly, and I'm constantly keeping up with new playwrights and stuff. But I haven't done I did a play like early last year, and I don't do plays very often. Of course, I'm always looking for something special, and I travel from New York, LA, New York a bit, and I have some friends in the theater world there, and constantly look in. But I grew up watching films. Film raised me, and acting is acting though. I'll do both, but right now film is where it is.
Yeah, and you successfully go between film and television. You know, you do a lot of one-offs on TV.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a preference? Do you like film? Do you like TV better?
I like it all. I have no preference. I just like the art. I like the work, and I just want to do it for the rest of my life. To be quite honest with you, you know, I don't want to go too long unemployed. I'll take whatever.
Why not?
I like working with fresh faces and new actors and different parts, different roles, different areas of the country.
Mm-hmm.
It's the best job in the world.
Do you find it for all of you? Do you find it invigorating when you work with up and comers, brand new performers, directors? You're still kind of sort of new,
Definitely.
but does that invigorate you when, especially because you've done a variety of things, does that encourage you? I know some actors, they have trepidation if there's, a new director coming on board. Unless you get guys like Martin Landau loves new directors, Susan Sarandon loves new directors, and it invigorates, and they also step into kind of a, if need be, like a mentor, not even a mentor, but gently mothering or fathering somebody to take and move the next generation along. Do you guys like working with new talent, and on the same hand, working with older talent as you did here with that lovely casting nod?
Yeah. Well, speaking for myself, it was a thrill to work with both of these guys, just because, I mean, they're both very, very talented. Like I said, bringing on, I'm looking right now because, like you said, I'm in the early stages of my career. I'm looking to build relationships and strengthen the relationships I have with people that I see something in, and that I want to continue to work with, time and time again. And, you look at, for example, like Scorsese works with a lot of the same actors, Christopher Nolan, a lot of the same actors. And I think that's smart in a lot of ways. It doesn't mean I'm not going to look for new faces. I think I always want to kind of leave the door to casting and auditions open, because I feel like, otherwise I don't think you would have had, the brilliant performances like you did in Amadeus had they not casted. Had they not searched for the person right for the role. I mean, there was a lot of people in the business at the time, that a lot of actors, big name actors, that wanted the role of Salieri or Mozart. But Milos Forman was adamant about doing auditions and finding the person that was perfect for the role. And I think that should, as a director, you should always have that door open, as well as working with people that you worked with in the past.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and now what about for you, Mojean?
I mean, I'm always shocked when I work with someone who doesn't have a lot of experience on paper, and then they're so talented, both as an actor and as a director. I'm always that always triggers something in me, because I've been doing this my whole life, and sometimes I'm like, oh, it doesn't really matter how much I've been doing this. It's all about starting fresh again, and
being in love with what you do. And so that's always something interesting. I mean, if people are invested in their work and obsessed with what they do and love what they do, then I'll it's a pleasure for me to work with them. That's what matters.
And what about you, JT? Because as a producer as well, creating material.
I like the whole process. I rely heavily on our casting director because I don't have all the answers. I don't know who's like fresh on the scene, who's up and coming. Casting knows that, and whatever they think, or the writer director that we work with or hire feels that they have a certain person that they want to go after, and the casting director agrees with our writer director, I'm all for that. I don't care if they've never done a single credit of anything. I'm open to any of that. With my other film, 10 Cent Pistol, our writer director Michael C. Martin had a vision on who we wanted for these parts. With Joe Mantegna and Jenna Malone and Thomas A. Nichols, and he only saw those actors in those roles, but we auditioned other people just in case if we couldn't get these because we were offer only for all these guys, and ultimately they accepted. So they had a meeting with us just to make sure that we were the real deal and we had money in the bank to pay them, and it's just but fresh faces, other projects that I'm working on, looking at new faces, people with credits, and absolutely.
So as you guys are now getting ready, counting down the days to the big premiere at Newport on the 24th, obviously, Mojean, you're in pre-production on how many things right now?
2 films.
Only,
2 films.
Only 2.
Yeah. I mean, only 2. Yeah.
Only 2. We're not going to ask JT. No. No. So are you getting ready for anything else now?
Yep. My brother and I, we developed a television series about the vacation timeshare company that we're packaging together, and we'll soon go pitch that to different networks. We have another film that we're working on called Hitman's Funeral. We're trying to get TJ Mancini wrote it, but we're trying to get Vin Diesel on to EP it. So knock on wood, hopefully that goes. And then other stuff, small stuff that I'm picking up here and there, little television bits and one-offs and stuff like that.
And are you just anxiously awaiting the 24th, or are you working on other things right now?
No, I'm still working on other stuff. Otherwise, I think it'd go insane. I have a project that I've been working on for the past 2 years that's based on a true story that happened in 1917. Been working on that for 2 years with my writing partner.
I'll be in it.
And then I've had a science fiction thriller, which I'm going to send to JT. I told him. Mojean's already read it. It's called Tumble, and that actually was named a finalist at Nashville Film Festival, and Scriptapalooza was a semifinalist. So that one is one that I also want to kind of shop out there.
Well, and that is, I got the little musical cue. So that is all the time we have today. Guys, I can't thank you enough for coming in today.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much.
This is so much fun. So everybody now needs to go to Newport Film Festival, the 24th.
Yep, Sunday, April 24th at 2:30 in the afternoon.
And hurry up and get your tickets now online because they're going quick.
Yep.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.